Well, if you find that your child is having difficulty at school, it may be time to get help. The folks over at Brain Balance say they integrate sensory motor activities with effective education and behavioral methods to help kids with any type of learning disability. And one parent says it has changed her and her child's life. Janeil Swarthout, the center's director, as well as Victoria Baker, she's a parent who's had her child enrolled at Brain Balance. They both joined me this morning to talk a little bit more about it. Welcome both of you to the show. I appreciate you being here. Janeil, tell me a little bit about Brain Center and Brain Balance, I should say, and how did it come about?
Well, it's a franchise,
okay,
and it was founded by Dr. Robert Malello.
Okay.
And so he specializes in, he calls it functional disconnection syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And so we found out about it because my nephew has autism. And so we looked for programs that might help him. Mm-hmm. And so they were opening a franchise to California when we were looking into it. Mm-hmm. And we fell in love with it.
And how does it help children and we're talking about children with any type of disabilities, right? With dyslexia, Tourette's, ADHD, ADD.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, it's a learning center, so we offer a cognitive program, but we also do sensory motor stimulation and nutritional work with the kids.
Okay.
So it starts with an assessment, and the assessment takes 3 days. 2-hour appointments each day, and the first appointment is the sensory motor evaluation. Mm-hmm. So we look at what's going on in the child's body, how are they taking information from the world through their senses. Wow. So through their vestibular, proprioception, tactile, auditory, visual, and so we look at where are developmental delays occurring on all those levels.
Got it. And Victoria, I've got to ask, you noticed something with your son. Your son had, you said
Tourette syndrome. He's got Tourette syndrome, ADHD, and OCD. All three.
Goodness.
Yeah,
how was it like?
He suffered.
Yeah.
He suffered. He had tics so bad that they would, a gasping tic, it would cause him to hyperventilate and pass out. And his ADHD was so bad that he couldn't even complete a task. I'm talking brush your teeth, get dressed. He didn't have the attention to complete a daily task.
And you took him to the doctor?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, obviously.
We've taken him to several doctors,
okay.
yeah.
And how did you end up at the Brain Balance, and what was so different about the facility here than what doctors were telling you to do?
Well, the doctors were telling us to take medicine. And the medicine helps one thing and hurts another, and he was in the ER more times for medication side effects than as for his actual Tourette syndrome. I mean, this little boy has had a journey like you wouldn't understand. And he actually saw the article in the paper himself. It was on the front page of the Bee for the Brain Balance, and he saw that and asked if he could go to get rid of his Tourette syndrome.
And he's only seven years old, and he brought this idea to you.
He absolutely did, remember? Yeah, it's such a touching story that Janeil asked me to be here, and there's no way I would say no. They have, the doctors couldn't help him. Brain Balance did. He's better now. He just got up this morning, he got dressed, brushed his teeth, he can finish his homework, he's a normal kid.
And for a parent, that must be such a relief. I mean, I think the rest of us take it for granted a little bit, right?
Oh, of course. And I am starting to take it for granted, too. I'll go into his room to check on him and remind him, because I always have to micromanage, and he's already dressed. It's just, and, you know, I'm starting to be like it's just kind of a normal, he's only been in a month, by the way.
Only a month.
It's already a normal thing.
So no medication right now?
He is almost completely off of his meds. He had, like you understand, he had the triad. He had OCD, ADD, and Tourette's. He was on 5 different meds.
Oh, no.
So we have to slowly wean him off. It's only been a month. But he has 1 medication we're still getting him off of.
Now, we have some pictures of what you do at the Brain Balance there, Janeil. Tell me, first of all, what do you do that's so different? I mean, I saw this picture of one little girl. She was kind of on like a balance beam, and there's a doctor or counselor working with these children. What exactly are they doing that's so different from a school?
Right. Well, that was a teacher working with the students. So we do we assess their cognitive skills too. And then we have a teacher work with the student in those areas. But the sensory motor program is unique. When we look at, one thing that's different about Brain Balance is that we look at where we can, the one side of the body's performance compared to the other. And that tells us how well each hemisphere of the brain is working. And so when we work with them on their sensory motor stimulation, we do what's called weighting the weak side. So we'll send extra stimulation to the weak side of the brain through tactile, auditory, visual, those kind of things, to force the processing to be more efficient. So you get, with our kids, you get, we look at hemispheric weakness and we say, oh, they might be bilaterally weak on each hemisphere, but if we see a weakness greater on one hemisphere, then that's where we'll beef up the stimulation. And so it makes the work more efficient. So when we're stimulating, when they're doing their functional program, then we're weighting the weak side. And it's also very intensive. So you have to be really committed to, you come 3 times a week for a minimum of 3 months. You engage in a nutritional program, and then you're working the cognitive skills too.
Okay.
So.
But I mean, we say you have to be very committed. Obviously, you are more than willing to be that committed when it comes to your child.
If you're in our situation, you're going to try anything. And my son, you have to remember, he's the one that wanted to do this. So he's been on board 100%.
Wow.
So he's doing everything they're asking.
Wow. Okay, so Brain Balance, how many locations do you have, Janeil? Because I'm sure a lot of people are interested. I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, you know, my child has ADD. What can I do? Or can you have a guest on that can help us? Because we don't want to take medication. I mean, I know of somebody that was taking their grandson to San Francisco 2 or 3 times out of the week to get acupuncture.
Right.
So this is an option for a lot of parents out there. So give us all the information. Your number?
Yeah, well, the phone number 559-324-0200, and we're in Clovis on Herndon and Willow, next door to Best Buy in the Target Shopping Center there.
Okay, okay.
We were the 2nd location to open in California. Second just to the Bay Area. So we were really excited to bring it to the Central Valley.
Wow. And you guys are experts in your field, I imagine.
Well, yeah, I'm administrative. I have a PhD, but it's in the field of depth psychology. And yeah, all our practitioners are well trained in their fields.
324-0200, brainbalancecenters.com. Brainbalancecenters.com is the website. Wow, thank you so much for being here. And remember, they treat everyone with from ADD, dyslexia, Asperger's, Tourette's, OCD, any sort of processing disorder, learning difficulty, autism. You do it all.
And we have 2 big events. We have a book signing tonight where the founder, Dr. Malella, is coming out. He's speaking at Barnes & Noble from 7 to 9. And his book is Disconnected Kids. And then tomorrow night we're having a parent lecture at Clovis Memorial Building in Old Town Clovis. And that's 6 to 8.
6 to 8. Okay, and I know the doctor's coming on our show here tomorrow as well, so make sure to catch that interview because we will have the doctor and the founder of the center here on our show. So thank you both so very much for being here. I appreciate it. I'm so glad things are working out with you.
Me too, thank you.
Me too, that's awesome. Still to come here on Central Valley today, get to know the ladies of the Junior League and see how they're helping our community and providing a fun Las Vegas-style night. We'll be back. Well, if you missed the program yesterday, you missed ways to help your child get the help he or she needs if they suffer from any type of learning disability. The folks at Brain Balance say they integrate sensory motor activities with effective educational and behavioral methods to help kids with any type of learning disability. And the founder of Brain Balance, Dr. Robert Melillo, is in town for a book signing, and he joins us this morning to explain what makes the center so different from others. I know you're from New York, Doctor. I appreciate your visit here on Central Valley today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So when did you decide that you needed to open up a center like the Brain Balance?
Well, it all started really 15 years ago with part of my clinical practice. I was in practice for 25 years as a clinician, but I also was involved in brain research and academics, neuroscience, neuropsychology, but also I was a parent of a son with some attentional issues. So it was a personal thing as well. And it really all started with me, and Brain Balance all started from a question as to what's actually happening in the brain of a child with ADHD or with autism or with dyslexia, and what can we do about it.
You've written 2 books. Is that what they're about? One of them is titled Disconnected Kids, and there it is right there on your screen. What can people get out of this book?
Disconnected Kids really explains to parents, I think for the first time, really what's happening in their child's brain. It gives them an idea of really what these problems are and why they present with specific types of learning disabilities. Some children have learning disabilities where it affects their academics in school. Other children have problems learning socially or emotionally or non-verbally. And that has to do with the balance between the right and the left side of the brain. So it really explains what the problem is and gives them tools to actually be able to change it.
And it gives us a little insight into what you do at the Brain Balance there. You try to balance the brain, basically.
Yes.
And if we look at some pictures, it seems as though you help them with their physical movements. And explain to us what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, well, what we see is that the brain controls everything. So the brain controls motor activity, balance, sensory processing, vision, hearing. It controls your muscle tone. It also controls your, obviously, cognitive skills. So what we look at is academics, how you're able to read, whether you word read or comprehend. And different parts of the brain control different aspects of it. So the left side of the brain controls more fine motor skills. The right side controls more of the spatial, gross motor skills that you see here with this little girl doing that ball type movement. But we also see she's wearing specialized glasses. She has things on her skin, stimulating her skin on one side or the other. She'll be listening to specialized music in one ear or the other. And the idea is to actually get the whole brain to work together in synchrony so that the child can use the whole brain and bring that into the learning process, because most of these children can't do that.
And how long do you think that takes? Or is each child different?
Each child is different, each child is unique, and that's why we, in our assessment, it takes 2 to 3 days, and we actually literally measure over 1,100 functions on each child. And we sit down with the parent and explain that all to them. And in the book, I go through how the parents can do a much less version of that, but how they can really assess their own child. And then from there, we usually tell the parent that the imbalance either is in the mild, moderate, or severe range, which is somewhere between 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months of our program.
And how do you know, if you are a parent, that your child has some sort of problem? I mean, a lot of kids are hyperactive sometimes, especially after you give them sugar.
Right, sure.
But how can you tell there's a problem, he or she needs to be seen?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. One of the early clues is, did your child hit all the milestones?
Okay.
Did they roll over to both sides equally? Did they crawl exactly the way they were supposed to for a period of time? Did they walk on time? If they missed any of those milestones, they probably developed an imbalance in their brain during that period. And see, the whole thing is that there isn't any injury or damage to the brain in these children. They just have a balance problem because one side developed faster than the other. So it's a developmental delay. And we can correct that in most cases, or certainly improve it. So if there was something that through their motor milestones, if the child has significant imbalances where certain skills are much better than others, that's a clue. And also, you know, if we have professionals, most teachers are pretty adept at coming up to parents and saying, hey, I think your child, you know, may have an attentional issue or may be hyperactive or impulsive. And so I would say that the parents should listen to teachers. They usually are a pretty good measuring stick.
Is this, you think, maybe an alternative to medication? A lot of parents nowadays, they simply don't want to give that medication because it changes the child's personality so much.
Well, you know, listen, again, we're learning centers. We're not healthcare facilities, so we don't really comment on medication. But as you know, the program, we don't use medication, not because we think there's anything wrong with it per se. It's obviously a useful tool that can be helpful, but it doesn't actually address the problem. It only is a Band-Aid.
Have you seen children maybe not have to use their medication as much after going through the program?
80% of the children that come into our program are actually on medication. But 80% of those children, the doctors have taken them off of medication by the time they come out of the program. And we had one major study that looked at our program last year that was published in a medical journal that essentially showed that 82% of children with ADHD that went through our program, that within 12 weeks no longer met the criteria for ADHD.
Wow, that offers a lot of hope for a lot of people out there right now. You will be at Brain Balance tonight, won't you?
I will be there. Today we have, and it's in Herndon, you see the address, we actually have a grand opening, so anybody that wants to come by.
So today is the grand opening.
Today is from 2 o'clock, from 12 o'clock to around 2. And then tonight I'm doing a lecture at the Clovis Memorial, Veterans Memorial Building. It's across from Clark Intermediate School. And it's from 6 to 8 p.m. I'll be doing a parent and teacher lecture. So anybody that really wants to come down and really hear what we're doing. And obviously I'll be meeting people and signing books, and love to be able to talk to anybody that has any questions about that.
Well, I'm sure they would love to hear more from you. And if you'd like to get the books, it's Disconnected Kids and Reconnected Kids. Correct. Where can people find your books?
Amazon. We just did a great book signing at Barnes & Noble last night. So they can go to Barnes & Noble. They have plenty of them there that I actually signed for them. And they can go on Amazon. That's probably the easiest way to get it. And you know, it's available at all the major bookstores.
Well, thank you for offering hope for a lot of parents out there. If you want to get hold of anyone over at the Brain Balance or need more information, all you have to do is call the number 324-0200, or you can also go to brainbalancecenters.com. I believe it's brainbalancecenters.com. It's right on your screen there. Doctor, it was so good talking to you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for, as I said, offering hope.
That's my pleasure.
All
Thank
right,
you.
nice to meet you. Still to come here on Central Valley Today, how you can help put a stop to domestic violence. A sit down with Tulare County District Attorney and why he is hitting the pavement. We'll be right back.